The stars were quiet. Too quiet. In the cold darkness of space, the Kareth Union fleet drifted without power. Their ships were damaged, burned, and broken. Metal plates floated like dead skin. Blue emergency lights blinked slowly, as if the ships themselves were breathing their last breath. Commander Rael Venn stood on the main bridge of the flagship Silent Oath. He did not speak. He only watched the space ahead, black, endless, and empty. They were lost. 3 hours ago, the fleet had entered this sector with confidence. It was supposed to be safe space. No enemy signals. No war alerts. Just another routine patrol. Then the trap closed. Enemy warships appeared without warning. Hundreds of them. Fast. Silent. Perfectly arranged. Their weapons struck first, hitting engines, communication towers, and shield cores. Not to kill, but to paralyze. Now the Kareth fleet could not move, could not run, could not call for help. And the enemy knew it. Status report. Rael said calmly, even though his chest felt tight. A young officer replied, voice shaking. Main engines offline. Backup power failing. No long-range signal. Short-range transmitters destroyed. Rael nodded slowly. He already knew. Another officer spoke. Quieter this time. No rescue is coming. Commander. Those words hit harder than any weapon. Rael turned his eyes to the tactical screen. Red symbols surrounded the fleet like hungry beasts. The enemy ships were waiting, watching, enjoying the fear. This enemy empire was known across the stars. They did not rush. They liked to break hope first. Minutes passed. Then something strange happened. One of the sensor officers frowned at his screen. Commander, I'm seeing interference. Rael looked at him. What kind of interference? The officer swallowed. I don't know. It's not radiation. Not background noise. It's like space itself is moving. That made no sense. Run a full scan, Rael ordered. The screen flickered, then glitched. Suddenly, alarms began to sound, not from Kara ships, but from the enemy fleet. Enemy formations shifted. Their perfect lines broke. Rael's eyes narrowed. What are they reacting to? No one answered. Then space folded. Not exploded. Not cracked. Folded. Right in front of both fleets. Darkness bent inward like a deep wound in reality. Stars behind it vanished, as if swallowed. Sensors screamed, unable to understand what they were seeing. A massive shape began to rise. Slowly, silently. It did not jump in with light or sound. It did not arrive with engines burning bright. It simply appeared, like it had always been there, and space was only now allowing to be seen. The bridge fell completely silent. The ship was enormous, larger than any known battleship. Its surface was dark, smooth, and without markings. No flags, no symbols, no visible weapons, no signal, no identity. The enemy fleet froze. Their commanders fired scans again and again. The results made no sense. No heat signature, no energy leak, no weak points. Rael felt something he had not felt in many cycles. Fear mixed with wonder. Commander, an officer whispered, that ship, it's not attacking. The unknown warship drifted forward, placing itself between the Kara fleet and the enemy like a shield. The enemy hesitated. Then they fired, a full volley. Enough firepower to erase a moon. The weapons hit the unknown ship and vanished, not deflected, not absorbed, just gone. The shots disappeared as if they had never existed. A deep silence followed. The enemy fleet began to panic. Formations broke apart. Some ships tried to retreat. Others charged forward in desperation. The unknown warship finally reacted. Space around it shifted. Enemy ships closest to it suddenly twisted, crushed by invisible force. Hulls bent. Power cores collapsed. No explosions, just quiet destruction. Rael's fleet watched in shock. This is impossible, someone whispered. The unknown ship sent out its first signal. It was not language. It was data. Pure, clean, overwhelming data. Enemy systems overloaded instantly. Screens went dark. Weapons shut down. Entire ships went dead in seconds. The battle was already over. Then, words appeared on the Kara flagship's main screen. Simple, clear, calm. Stand down. You are not the target. Rail stepped forward, heart racing. Who are you? He asked. There was a pause. Then the reply came. Observers. The enemy fleet tried one last desperate move. Their flagship powered its core, preparing a suicide strike. The unknown warship turned slightly. A thin line of light appeared. The enemy flagship disappeared. Not destroyed. Erased. No debris. No signal. Nothing. The remaining enemy ships shut down immediately. Total silence returned to space. The unknown ship did not chase them, did not threaten them. It simply waited. Rail took a deep breath. Why help us? He asked. Another pause. Then the message that would change everything. Because this space is under human protection. The bridge froze. Human. The word echoed like an old myth. Humans were stories. Legends. A species said to survive impossible wars. A race that disappeared after burning their own stars. Many believed they were extinct. Others believed they were watching. Rail felt a strange chill. You could have let us die, he said carefully. The reply came, calm and final. We were already here. The human warship began to fade. Not jump, not warp. Fade, like mist in sunlight. Before it vanished completely, one final message appeared. Tell the galaxy, silence is not weakness. Then the void was empty again. The Kara fleet floated in stunned silence. No rescue had come, because it was never needed. Humans had been watching all along. The enemy empire had never felt fear before. They were called the Veltrax Dominion. Across the galaxy, their name meant only one thing. End. Planets burned when they arrived. Fleets vanished. Civilization surrendered without a fight. They had never been stopped. Until now, on the Veltrax command ship Crimson Authority, Supreme Admiral Zerol stared at the empty space where his flagship once existed. It was gone, not destroyed, not damaged, gone. His claws tightened around the command rail. What weapon did that? He demanded. No one answered. Veltrax officers were silent, their gray skin pale. Their screens showed error after error. Systems that had never failed were now useless. That ship, one officer finally said, voice low, it did not fight like us. Zerol turned slowly. Explain. It did not rush. It did not show power. It waited, and then space itself abated. That statement should have been impossible. Veltrax technology was the best ever built. They bent stars. They cracked moons. They ruled through force and fear. Yet none of it mattered. The human warship had done something worse than destroy them. It had ignored them. Zero replayed the recordings again and again. The moment weapons vanished. The moment ships folded inward. The moment silence won. No signal, he whispered. No warning. No mercy. Across the battlefield, the surviving Veltrax ships powered down as ordered. For the first time in Veltrax history, they had surrendered, not to an army, but to a presence. Far away, the Karath Union fleet slowly regained control. Emergency crews moved through damaged corridors. Power was restored bit by bit. Commander Rail then stood alone, watching the stars. The human ship was gone, yet its shadow remained. An officer approached carefully. Commander, long-range signals are coming in. From where? Rail asked. Everywhere, the officer replied. News travels fast in space, especially fear. Nearby systems had detected the same impossible readings. Energy distortions, reality bending, entire Veltrax fleets going dark. Whispers became messages. Messages became panic. The galaxy was waking up. One by one, alien governments sent encrypted questions. What happened? Who saved you? Was it a weapon? Rail answered with only one sentence. Humans are still here. That sentence changed everything. In the Veltrax home sector, chaos spread. Admirals argued. Scientists screamed at their data. Religious leaders declare the event a false sign. Supreme Admiral Zerol entered the High War Council chamber in silence. "They are real," he said finally. The chamber froze. "Humans were myths," a council replied. "Old warnings. Old lies." Zerol activated a recording. The room watched as Veltrax ships vanished without explosions, as weapons failed, as a human message appeared, calm, cold, unstoppable. Silence filled the chamber. One counselor spoke quietly. "If humans protected that space, how much do they protect?" No one answered, because no one knew. Veltrax intelligence began searching ancient archives, records that were locked, forgotten, ignored. They found stories, not of victory, but of survival. Humans had fought wars that lasted centuries. They had faced enemies stronger than the Veltrax, enemies that controlled time, matter, and thought. Humans had not won by power alone. They had won by endurance, by refusing to disappear. One ancient line stood out. "When humans stop answering, it is not because they are gone. It is because they are watching." Fear spread through Veltrax command like a disease. Meanwhile, on Kareth worlds, people celebrated. Children watched the stars with hope. Merchants spoke of safe routes again. Old veterans cried, believing they would never see peace. But Commander Rail did not celebrate. He remembered the human voice. Calm, controlled, unemotional. That was not kindness. That was control. He realized something important. Humans did not arrive to save the day. They arrived because the line had already been crossed. In deep space, far beyond known maps, the human warship rejoined others like it. Dozens, hundreds, silent giants floating in formation. Inside one command chamber, a human officer reviewed the battle. "No casualties," another reported. Veltrax response? "Fear, confusion, retreat." The officer nodded. Then the message was delivered. "Do we reveal more?" someone asked. The officer shook his head. "No, let them imagine the rest." The fleet did not move. It waited. Back in Veltrax space, Supreme Admiral Zerol made the hardest decision of his life. "All 4 invasions are cancelled," he announced. "All fleets pull back." Gasps filled the chamber. "We rule by fear," a general protested. "We cannot retreat." Zerol looked at him coldly. "We just met something that does not fear us." That ended the argument. Across the galaxy, borders shifted. Wars paused. Empires watched the dark more carefully. And every commander asked the same question. If humans were still out there, what else were they protecting? The answer did not come. Because humans never rushed explanations. They let silence do the work. The galaxy did not sleep after that day. It watched. In quiet star systems, long-range sensors stayed active. Military fleets stopped training and started waiting. Trade routes shifted away from empty regions once ignored. Because those empty regions were no longer empty. They were human space. The strange thing was not that humans existed. The strange thing was how long they had been watching without being seen. On the Kareth homeworld, Commander Rael Ven stood before the High Council. The chamber was full. Leaders, generals, scientists, every powerful voice waited for answers. Rael spoke slowly. "They did not arrive to rescue us," he said. "They arrived because the enemy crossed a line." "What line?" a counselor asked. Rael shook his head. They did not explain. That silence worried the council more than any threat. "If humans protect space without warning," another counselor said, "how do we know where that protection ends?" No one had an answer. Far away, deep inside Veltrax territory, fear turned into desperation. Supreme Admiral Zerol had ordered a full retreat, but fear is dangerous when mixed with pride. Some Veltrax commanders refused to believe the truth. It was one ship, they argued. One trick, one ambush. They wanted proof. They wanted revenge. Against orders, a small Veltrax strike group entered a quiet sector near the edge of known space. No planets, no stations, nothing valuable, just darkness, perfect for testing. The fleet moved carefully, weapons ready, shields high. Nothing happened. Confidence returned. See, one commander said. No humans. No ghosts. Then their sensors died. All at once. Stars vanished from screens. Navigation failed. Even time signals desynced. The fleet slowed. Then space itself changed. Not violently. Precisely. A massive shape appeared ahead. Not one ship, but 3. Human warships. Different shapes. Different sizes. Same silent design. No signals. No threats. Just presence. The Veltrax commanders froze. One of them finally sent a message. We mean no conflict, he said quickly. This is a misunderstanding. The reply came instantly. This region is under human observation. The commander swallowed. We did not know. There was a pause. Then the words that ended the argument. You were warned. Long ago. The human ships did not fire. Instead, space around the Veltrax fleet compressed. Engines failed. Hull plates bent. Power cores shut down safely. Perfectly. The fleet was disabled without a single death. Then the humans spoke again. Leave. Do not return. The Veltrax fleet was released. They ran. And they never returned. The message spread faster than light. Humans did not need wars. They enforced rules. In secret human space, far beyond alien maps, something else was happening. Human command stations floated inside artificial stars. Not bases, anchors. Points that held space stable, controlled, observed. Inside one such station, Admiral Elena Ward studied the latest reports. Veltrax tested the border. An officer said, they failed. Ward nodded calmly. They always do. How long before the galaxy understands? Another officer asked. Ward looked at the star outside the viewport. They already do. They just don't want to accept it. She turned to a massive display, showing hundreds of quiet regions. These are not empty zones, she continued. They are scars. Scars from wars humans barely survived. Long before current empires existed, humans had fought enemies that nearly erased reality itself. They learned a hard lesson. Never allow uncontrolled expansion. Never allow surprise. Never allow threats to grow. So humans did not conquer the galaxy. They contained it. Back on Kareth worlds, public opinion began to split. Some praised humans as silent guardians. Others feared them. If they can erase fleets, people asked, what stops them from erasing us? Commander Rail understood both sides. He requested permission to send a message, a simple one, to the humans. The transmission entered deep space. No reply came for hours. Then one line appeared. We do not interfere unless force. Rail typed carefully. What forces you? This time, the reply was slower, heavier. Patterns. Rail frowned. Patterns of what? The answer made his blood run cold. Genocide. Expansion without limit. Weapons that break reality. Rail realized the truth. Humans were not heroes. They were filters. Anything that threatened long-term survival was removed. Quietly, efficiently, without emotion. In Veltrax High Command, panic turned into anger. Supreme Admiral Zerol faced his council again. They did not destroy us, one general said. They humiliated us. Zerol replied calmly. They spared us. Why? Another asked. Zerol looked tired. Because we were not worth erasing. That sentence ended all arguments. Across the galaxy, ancient records were opened, old warnings translated, forgotten messages decoded. Every civilization found the same truth buried in their past. Humans had always been there, watching young species rise, stepping in only when the same mistakes repeated, war after war, empire after empire. History had not been random. It had been managed. Deep in human space, Admiral Ward stood before a memorial wall. Names covered it. Billions. Human names. She spoke quietly. We keep them safe, she said, even when they hate us for it. An officer asked softly, and if one day they unite against us? Ward did not hesitate. Then we will do what we always do. What is that, Admiral? She looked at the stars. We endure. At the edge of known space, Commander Rail watched the void again. He finally understood. No rescue was coming, because the galaxy was already under protection, and the price of crossing human space was not death. It was being noticed. Long before the galaxy learned to fear the dark, humans had already lost their light. That truth was buried deep in time, buried under ruined stars, broken worlds, and names no one remembered anymore. In a quiet chamber on the Kara homeworld, Commander Rail then studied the ancient data humans had allowed to be shared. It was not much, just fragments. But even fragments told a painful story. These records, one Kara historian said softly, are older than our civilization. Rail nodded. And they are warnings. The data showed images of human worlds, green, blue, alive, cities full of movement, children running under open skies, oceans untouched by war. Then the images changed. Fire, darkness, planets breaking apart like glass. What happened to them? A counselor asked. Rail answered before anyone else could. Everything. Millions of cycles ago, humans were not watchers. They were explorers. They traveled fast, built fast, learned fast. They believed the galaxy was empty and kind. They were wrong. Something ancient noticed them. It was not an empire, not a species. It was a force, a collection of minds that consumed stars to grow. It erased entire systems to feed. It did not hate humans. It did not even see them. Humans were simply in the way. The first human colonies vanished without warning. No signals. No survivors. At first, humans thought it was a natural disaster. Then more worlds died. Entire stars went dark. That was when humans understood. The galaxy was not empty. It was hungry. Human fleets fought back. They used every weapon they had. Nuclear fire, energy storms, reality tears. Nothing stopped it. The force adapted, learned, improved. Human victories became human losses. World after world fell. Human leaders argued. Some wanted to run. Others wanted to hide. A few wanted to surrender to something that could not even speak. In the end, humanity made a different choice. They changed the rules. Instead of attacking the enemy directly, humans began to shape space itself. They learned how to slow time, how to bend gravity, how to lock regions of space into control zones. They built anchors, not to expand, but to contain. They sacrificed entire systems to trap the force inside dead regions. Billions died so trillions could live. The enemy was not destroyed. It was sealed, and humans paid the price. Their population dropped to almost nothing. Their empires collapsed. Their worlds turned into memorials. To survive, humans did the unthinkable. They disappeared. Back in the present, Rail felt his chest tighten. So the empty regions, a council whispered. Rail nodded. They are graves. Human space was not territory. It was a scar map. Every quiet zone marked a place where humans had fought something far worse than the Veltrax Dominion, something no one else was ready to face. In deep human space, Admiral Elena Ward stood before a council of human commanders. The room was silent, except for distant machine hums. The galaxy is starting to understand, one officer said. Not fully, Ward replied. They see our power, not our cost. Another officer hesitated. Should we tell them everything? Ward shook her head slowly. No. Fear keeps them cautious. Truth might make them reckless. She activated a projection. It showed the sealed regions. Red markers pulsed softly. The force is still there, Ward continued. Sleeping. Waiting. And if it wakes? Someone asked. Ward did not answer immediately. Then we do what we have always done, she said finally. We stand in the dark. Elsewhere, Supreme Admiral Zero of the Veltrax Dominion stared at the same truth from stolen records. Humans were not cowards. They were survivors of a war no one else even remembered. They did not conquer us. Zero said quietly to his council. They spared us because they are tired. That frightened him more than anything. A tired predator was still a predator. Across the galaxy, small signs began to appear. A sealed zone trembled. An anchor station reported unusual energy. Old warning systems activated for the first time in millions of cycles. Human observers noticed immediately. Admiral Ward received a report and closed her eyes for a moment. "It's early," an officer said, "but it's happening." Ward straightened. "Notify all silent fleets," she ordered. "Full readiness." "What about the galaxy?" another asked. Ward looked at the stars. "They will notice soon enough." On Kareth, Rail received a final human transmission. It was longer than before. Clearer. "We did not stay to rule. We stayed to remember. Because if we forget, it returns." Rail felt cold. "Returns," he whispered. The answer came immediately. The reason we never left. Far beyond known space, something ancient shifted. Not awake, but aware. A pressure moved through sealed regions. Anchors glowed brighter. Space tightened like a hell breath. Humans moved silently to their stations. No speeches. No celebrations. Only duty. Because they had learned the hardest lesson of all. Winning a war does not mean it is over. Sometimes it only means you must watch forever. Commander Rail looked into the void and finally understood the true meaning of human silence. It was not arrogance. It was vigilance. The galaxy slept peacefully because humans never did. The first sign was small. So small that most civilizations ignored it. A deep space probe vanished near one of the sealed regions. No explosion. No distress call. Just silence. At first, it was marked as a system error. Then a second probe vanished. Then a third. That was when the humans stopped pretending everything was fine. Inside a human anchor station near the edge of the seal zone, warning lights slowly turned from blue to yellow. Admiral Elena Ward stood in the command chamber, hands behind her back, eyes fixed on the main display. "Confirm the readings," she said calmly. An officer nodded. "Anchor stability is dropping by 3%. That should be impossible." "But it's happening," Ward replied. The sealed region on the screen pulsed once, like a heartbeat. The room fell silent. "How long?" someone asked quietly. Ward took a breath. "Unknown." That was the worst answer. Across the galaxy, strange reports began to appear. Trade ships reported stars flickering. Navigation systems showed paths that no longer existed. Old maps stopped matching reality. On the Kareth homeworld, Commander Rail then received the first warning. A scientist stood before him, nervous. "We are detecting low-level space distortion," she said, "near the dark regions." Rail felt his stomach tighten. "The sealed zones?" The scientist nodded. "Yes." Rail remembered the human words. "If we forget, it returns." He sent an urgent message. The human reply came faster than ever before. "Remain calm. Do not approach the sealed regions. This is not your war." That last line scared Rail more than anything else. In Veltrax's territory, Supreme Admiral Zero also noticed a change. His long-range sensors showed patterns that should not exist. Space waves overlapping. Time delays where none should be. "This matches the ancient records," one Veltrax scientist whispered. Zero turned slowly. "The human war?" The scientist nodded. Zero felt something cold settle inside him. For the first time, the Veltrax Dominion was not afraid of humans. They were afraid of what humans had been holding back. Deep inside the sealed region, something stirred. Not fully awake, not aware of the present galaxy, but aware of pressure, of walls, of containment. The ancient force pressed outward, not with thought, but with instinct. The anchors responded. Human machines glowed brighter. Gravity fields strengthened. Time locks tightened. The galaxy felt nothing. Yet, human fleets began to move. Not loudly, not openly. From hidden positions, warships slipped into formation. Old designs, new designs. Some so strange that even humans barely understood them anymore. Admiral Ward addressed the fleet. No speech, no dramatic words. Just one sentence. Position confirmed. Hold the line. That was enough. On Kareth, Rail stood before his people again. "We are entering dangerous times. he said. But not because of war. The council waited. Because something older than all of us is pushing back. Fear spread through the chamber. Will humans protect us? One asked. Rael answered honestly. They always have. But will they succeed? Rael did not answer. The sealed region pulsed again. This time, the pulse was stronger. Anchor stations reported stress fractures in space-time. Systems that had not been touched in millions of cycles activated automatically. Human observers watched in silence. Pressure increasing. An officer said, "One more pulse like that could destabilize the outer shell." Ward nodded slowly. Then it is closer than we hoped. Far from human space, a small alien civilization made a fatal mistake. They detected rare energy near a sealed zone. Valuable, powerful. Against warnings, they sent a mining fleet. The ships crossed a boundary. They did not even have time to be afraid. The fleet vanished instantly, not destroyed, not erased, pulled inward, like dust into a storm. Every sensor across the galaxy felt it. A wave, a ripple, something answered. Human alarms turned red. Anchor failure in Sector 9. Secondary containment weakening. Energy spike detected. Admiral Ward closed her eyes for 1 second. Then she gave the order humanity had feared for generations. Activate protocol black silence. The room froze. That protocol, an officer began, means direct engagement. Ward finished. Yes. Another officer whispered, "If we do that, the galaxy will know." Ward looked at him. It already does. Across the stars, ancient human weapons woke from sleep. Not bombs, not beams. Concepts. Weapons designed to rewrite rules, to cut thoughts, to silence forces that did not understand death. Human fleets moved toward the sealed region, not to attack, but to reinforce. The galaxy watched in confusion. Empires asked questions. No answers came. On Veltrax Prime, Supreme Admiral Zerol stood alone on his balcony, staring at the night sky. He finally understood. Humans were not guardians. They were wardens, and the prison was shaking. Commander Rael received one final message from the humans. It was not calm this time. It was honest. We may fail. Rael's breath caught. If that happens, the message continued, run, hide, forget us. Rael typed back with shaking hands. What can we do? The reply came slowly. Survive. The sealed region brightened. Not with light, with absence. Stars inside it went dark all at once. Space bent inward like it was breathing. Something vast pressed against the walls. Not angry, not aware, just hungry. Human fleets formed a silent barrier. Anchor stations burned power older than civilizations. Admiral Ward whispered words no one else heard. Not again. The galaxy held its breath. Because everyone now understood the truth. Humans had not been protecting space from empires. They had been protecting empires from what lives beyond space. And now, it was knocking. The galaxy had never felt this kind of fear before. Not fear of war. Not fear of empires. This was fear of ending. The sealed region was no longer quiet. It moved. Stars inside it blinked out one by one, like someone turning off lights in a giant city. Space around it twisted, stretched, and cracked in ways no scientist could explain. Human anchor stations burned energy faster than ever before. Some began to fail. Inside Anchor Station Helios, alarms screamed. Engineers ran through corridors filled with blue emergency lights. Anchor core temperature rising. Gravity field unstable. Time lock weakening. Admiral Elena Ward stood in the center of the chaos, calm but tired. How long? She asked. A technician hesitated. Hours. Maybe less. Ward nodded once. Then we used the last option. The room went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Across human space, hidden fleets received a single message. Final stand protocol active. Ships that had slept for millions of cycles powered up. Ancient machines that humans barely remembered how to build came online. These were not warships. They were walls. On Kareth, Commander Rael Ven felt the change before he saw it. The night sky looked different, not brighter, darker. Stars near the sealed regions disappeared completely. Civilian populations panicked. Religions declared the end of time. Markets collapsed. Rail addressed the world again. "The humans are fighting," he said simply. "We must stay out of their way." "But if they lose?" a reporter asked. Rail paused. "Then we run." In Veltrax's territory, Supreme Admiral Zero watched human fleets move across the void. They did not threaten anyone. They did not conquer. They positioned themselves around the sealed region, like a ring of guardians, or soldiers preparing to die. Zero whispered to himself, "They are not afraid to fall." That scared him more than anything. Inside the sealed region, the ancient force pushed harder, not with intention, not with anger, with instinct. It did not know humans. It did not know empires. It only knew hunger. It had been contained for so long that reality itself felt like a cage, and it was trying to stretch. At Anchor Station Helios, Admiral Ward spoke to her commanders. "We cannot kill it," she said. "We can only hold it." "For how long?" one officer asked. Ward looked at the massive display of collapsing stars. "Forever," she said quietly. The officer did not understand. Ward explained, "This is not a war that ends. This is a duty that never ends." Human fleets formed layers. First layer, observation ships. Second layer, containment ships. Third layer, sacrifice ships. Each layer had a purpose. The third layer would never return. A young human officer approached Ward. "Admiral, civilians on Earth are asking what is happening." Ward thought for a moment. "Tell them," she said, "we are keeping the lights on." The ancient force struck again. A shock wave rolled through the sealed region. One anchor station collapsed. Space folded in on itself. A star vanished instantly. Human fleets moved to replace the anchor without hesitation. The crew of that station did not escape. They had known they would not. Across the galaxy, every civilization felt the shock wave. Planets trembled. Navigation systems glitched. Time measurements drifted. Everyone looked to human space. For the first time, humans did not look invincible. Commander Rail received a private human message. "If containment fails, do not try to help." Rail typed back, "Why not?" The answer was honest. "You would only slow yourselves down." Rail felt sick. On Veltrax Prime, Zero faces council. "The humans are bleeding," a general said. "We should prepare to defend ourselves." "Defend against what?" Zero asked. The general hesitated. Zero looked at the sky. "Against a galaxy without humans." Silence filled the chamber. Deep in the sealed region, something finally became aware. Not fully intelligent, but aware of resistance, aware of walls, aware of pressure. It began to push with purpose. Anchor Station Helios shook violently. Structural integrity failing. Core overload in 10 minutes. Ward stood still. "Begin evacuation of non-essential staff." "And you?" an officer asked. Ward smiled slightly. "I am essential." Human fleets closed in tighter. Ships linked systems together. Gravity fields overlapped. Time locks synchronized. Reality itself became a net. The ancient force pressed against it and slowed. Not stopped. Slowed. In Kara space, Rail watched the human fleets on a massive display. They are not fighting to win, he realized. They were fighting to buy time. For everyone else. On Helios, Ward recorded a final message. "This is Admiral Elena Ward," she said calmly. "If you are hearing this, Helios has fallen." She paused. "We did not save the galaxy. We held it long enough for it to learn how fragile it is." She looked at the stars one last time. "Remember us when you choose peace." The recording ended. Helios collapsed. The anchor detonated, sealing a fracture in space-time but erasing the station and its crew. The ancient force screamed, not in sound but in distortion. It was pushed back, not defeated, but wounded. Across the galaxy, civilizations watched the sacrifice. Humans were not gods. They were soldiers on an endless wall, and they were willing to die quietly. Commander Rail whispered, They never wanted thanks. They only wanted time. Supreme Admiral Zero made a historic broadcast. To all Veltrax citizens, he said, "Today we witness courage beyond conquest." He bowed his head. The humans are our enemies no longer. The sealed region stabilized. Not safe, not quiet, but contained. For now, Admiral Ward's fleet held position. Thousands of ships lost. Millions of humans gone. The line still stood. Ward watched the dark and whispered, "Humanity still stands." The galaxy began to understand something important. Peace was not free. It was paid for by those who never asked to be remembered. The galaxy did not celebrate when the danger slowed. There were no victory messages, no great announcements, no cheers across the stars. There was only silence, a silence heavier than fear. The sealed region still existed, dark, broken, scarred. Human fleets remained in position around it, forming a quiet ring. Their ships did not shine. Their engines stayed low. They conserved power and time, knowing this duty had no end date. Some human ships had been there for generations. Their crews changed. Their mission did not. On the Kareth homeworld, Commander Rael Ven stood on a high platform, looking at the night sky. The stars looked normal again, but everyone knew the truth. Normal was an illusion. Below him, millions of Kareth citizens gathered. They did not shout. They did not demand answers. They simply waited. Rael spoke softly, yet his voice carried. "The humans held the line," he said. "They paid the price we never could." A pause followed. "They did not save us in a moment of glory," Rael continued. "They saved us through patience, sacrifice, and silence." Someone in the crowd asked, "Will they leave now?" Rael shook his head. "They never planned to." Across the galaxy, governments struggled to rewrite their understanding of history. Maps were updated. Borders were pulled back. Expansion fleets were canceled. Not because humans ordered it, but because everyone finally understood what lived beyond careless growth. In Veltrax space, Supreme Admiral Zero stood before the largest broadcast in his empire's history. For the first time, the hall was not filled with pride. It was filled with humility. "We believed power meant domination," Zero said. "We believed fear kept us strong." He looked at the stars displayed behind him. Human fleets guarding the dark. "We were wrong." A long silence followed. "The humans did not conquer us," Zero continued. "They showed us restraint." That single word changed Veltrax history. Restraint. Deep inside human space, survivors gathered on a quiet memorial station. No flags, no speeches, just names. Millions of names. Families, crews, engineers. Children born on stations that no longer existed. Admiral Elena Ward stood among them. Older now, slower, still standing. An officer approached her. "Admiral, the galaxy is calling you heroes." Ward did not smile. "We are not heroes," she said. "We are reminders." "Of what?" the officer asked. Ward looked at the sealed region far away. "Of what happens when no one says enough." Human records were slowly shared with select civilizations. Not weapons, not technology. History, stories of human mistakes, of early expansion, of wars fought too fast and learned too late. One record stood out across all of them. We did not almost lose the galaxy. We almost lost ourselves. Commander Rael spent many nights reading those records. He saw humans at their worst and at their strongest. They were not perfect. They were not kind by nature. They were stubborn. They learned. And once they learned, they never forgot. Generations passed. Children across many worlds grew up with a new truth. The galaxy was not endless. It was fragile. Teachers told stories of the silent fleets. Poets wrote about ships that never returned home. Artists painted the dark not as fear, but as responsibility. A common saying spread across civilizations. Sleep well. The watchers are awake. Sometimes, explorers ask dangerous questions. What if humans disappear? What if they fail? Those questions were never answered publicly. But in human command, they were discussed every day. The ancient force inside the sealed region never fully slept. It pressed sometimes. It tested sometimes. Each time it did, human fleets adjusted. A ship would move. An anchor would strengthen. A crew would stay behind. No announcements followed. Just balance restored. On his final day of service, Commander Rail Ven stood once more before the stars. He was old now. His hand shook slightly. He sent one last message to human space. "Are you still there?" The reply came after a long pause. "Always." Rail smiled. That was enough. Far beyond known space, the ancient force sensed resistance again. Not fear. Not chaos. Order. Endless, quiet order. It did not understand humans, but it remembered them, and memory was enough to keep it still. Humanity never built statues for this war. They never named holidays. They understood something others were only beginning to learn. If protection becomes pride, it becomes control. So they stayed silent. 100 cycles later, a young historian asked in the Kareth archive, why did humans choose to stay behind the wall? The answer was written in simple words. Because someone had to. The galaxy moved forward carefully. Empires slowed their growth. Weapons were tested less. Diplomacy became stronger than pride, not because humans demanded it, but because humans had shown the cost of ignoring limits. In the deepest human archives, a final message existed, not shared, not broadcast, just recorded. It read, "We are not eternal, but our duty must be." The sealed region remained, the wall remained, and the humans remained with it, not rulers, not gods, just guardians who understood the dark too well to abandon it. In the end, the galaxy learned the truth humanity never spoke loudly. No rescue was coming, because the rescue had already arrived and chose to stay forever.